In aviation, safety rests on trust and precision. On the night of January 29, 2025, that trust was shattered. American Airlines Flight 5342, a Bombardier CRJ-700, was descending toward Reagan National Airport while a U.S. Army Black Hawk helicopter conducted a training run over the Potomac. At just 300 feet above the river, the two aircraft collided, killing all 67 people aboard. The National Transportation Safety Board quickly opened an investigation, and its public hearings have exposed a chain of preventable errors and an extraordinary feud among the agencies charged with protecting the public. First, the helicopter's barometric altimeter was off by up to 100 feet, yet the Army considered that deviation acceptable. NTSB member J. Todd Inman bristled, saying the tolerance for error when civilian lives are at stake should be zero. Second, a critical collision avoidance tool was dark. The helicopter's ADS-B transmitter, which continually broadcasts an aircraft's exact position, had been switched off under Army policy for certain training missions. Even if it had been broadcasting, the passenger jet lacked the equipment required to read the signal. Third, the flight paths themselves were a disaster waiting to happen. FAA engineers had warned for years that the approved helicopter route crossed incoming airline traffic with as little as 75 feet of vertical separation. Nothing changed. Inside the Reagan control tower, the picture was no better. Chronic understaffing left one controller juggling radio calls for both the busy jet arrival corridor and the military training zone. That controller later told investigators he felt overwhelmed moments before the collision, describing a make-it-work culture that routinely pushed the limits of safety. When the NTSB pressed FAA officers on why the hazards had gone unaddressed, tempers flared. NTSB Chair Jennifer Homendy blasted what she called a maze of FAA bureaucracy. After an FAA manager outlined the paperwork required to adjust procedures, she snapped, "67 people are dead. Fix it. Do better." At one point, Homendy even accused an FAA supervisor of elbowing a colleague to keep them from speaking. The fallout has been swift. The helicopter route over the Potomac has now been closed. On Capitol Hill, lawmakers have introduced the Rotor Act, which would compel nearly all aircraft, including military, to keep ADS-B equipment on and active, and would force the FAA to reassess helicopter corridors near airports. Families of the victims have filed a $250 million claim against both the Army and the FAA. A middle-aged male with a clear, authoritative voice in a standard American English accent suitable for a serious news explainer. Aviation experts call the crash a warning that the nation's vaunted safety record is developing stress fractures. Critics accuse the FAA of a tombstone mentality, acting only after lives are lost. Whether the agency and its military partner can break that cycle remains an open question. What is clear, in the words of one investigator, is that safety margins are written in blood. The hope is that the deaths of 67 people will finally spur the changes needed before another tragedy writes the next chapter.